Welcome back, everybody. We're on season 3 of SAYMORE. And this season, you know the topic. It's women and weight. And why is weight so different for women? Because there's a lot of weight that gets added onto it. Today, it is a pleasure to host the very beautiful, the very smart, the very intelligent, and the really gorgeous Trisha Cadden. Trisha is actually the owner and the founder of Chalk Training Ground and the Daily Grind Cafe. If you're in Dubai, she's got two centers that Chalk Training. One is in Palm Jumeirah, very close to the beach. It's a beautiful place. And the other one is at Business Bay. Trisha, welcome to Say More.
Thank you so much, Kim. I'm so delighted to be here and chatting with you today.
Well, it's a pleasure to host you. Like we were chatting before we went live, and all of you know already that I send a little bit of a questionnaire, so I have a little background. I actually told Trish that I can paste your answers, and that's the episode. I loved it. It was so conversational. I could connect to everything. You know, Trisha, I'm going to go right into that part that I was talking about. That when I saw your answer, it was like you went inside of me and channeled me.
That's so amazing to hear.
Yeah, because I think that's the crux of women and weight, that it's not about the kilos, it's not about the scale, but it's all the emotional and the language that you speak to yourself or you
Exactly.
expose yourself to that affects you. So over to you. I'm going to ask you that question again. What, in your experience and opinion, is the challenges that women face with weight?
Sure. As I mentioned, I think that they're diverse, absolutely, but constant. Constant in everyday life. The face that you put upon yourself for your corporate life, for your family life, for your social life. I think we're constantly faced with these high levels of expectation, that are unrealistic. And warped, essentially, of what we feel beauty is, or what we feel it is to be perfect, or we'll be happy when we look like this. And the whole narrative around it is completely skewed. And it's unfortunately making a lot of us, not have a happier life, which is quite sad, And it's also a little bit sad in the way that it interrupts relationships, women amongst women. And in that life cycle, it also goes into the relationships within the family unit, how you raise your kids, how you speak to your daughters. It's such a vicious and constant cycle that it takes a lot of mindfulness and awareness to try and just see those cracks, in real time and stop them in their tracks, completely change the way that we speak to ourselves and each other, and the expectations we have on ourselves and each other, and try and look for parts of ourselves. There's a lovely saying that I'm not my hair, I'm not my body. All of these exterior things, and we're so much more than that, just like our male counterparts. We should be challenged and celebrated for our intelligence and for all of our achievements and for childbirth and for an abundance of absolutely incredible things, and instead we're stuck in this little rut.
Yeah. I read an article a couple of months ago that the actual depiction and size of a number 8 or a number 10 hasn't really changed. The number is 8 or UK 8 size or whatever, but the actual size of it has shrunk.
Oh yeah, I definitely would believe that. Yeah, and then in certain brands as well, so they just
yeah. And you're like, oh, I used to be a 10, or I'm a 12, and then you don't get into it, and you're going to a higher size. That subconsciously is hitting you so hard.
Yes. Isn't that crazy though? An inch on a piece of fabric affects us so deeply and traumatically, that it stops us from thriving the way that we should. It's, and I do feel that the scales are an awful thing as well. What 60 or 70 kilos on a scales looks like can be completely different. I can look completely different at 70 or 60 kilos, whatever way my composition is laid out at that particular time in life. So these limitations, or I suppose Isn't it funny as well that we also say we go against what size we are, what clothes size we are. We go against what our scales say. And why are they up here in the scale of, us as beings? Should it not be, the course that you did, or the promotion that you got in work, or, the business that you opened, or
even things that, the journey that you got over something, you became a better version, you began
yeah,
to reflect, you're not that person you were a year ago. Nobody really talks about it.
no, they
Nobody
don't talk
acknowledges
about growth, progress, the interesting things, not, the Atkins diet, that
exactly.
lasted 3 weeks. So, yeah.
Trish, there's something very beautiful that you wrote, that we shouldn't be looking at the scales, and you spoke about it. Then what should one be looking at when they look at their weight?
Weight should be a parameter used in a very small way to, make sure that you're in the healthy realms of fitness, to strive to live a happier, healthier life, to be able to, bear children, to be able to live longer, to be able to hike mountains, travel, have all these, worldly experiences. So that's the only reason it should matter. So it can facilitate these things for us. But outside of that,
I'm loving this conversation so much. I love that you said that. The other day I was speaking to a friend, and currently this is the heaviest I've probably ever been. I used to be that thin girl in the mind, and emotionally things shifted, that this became a protection mechanism. And I told her, I said, this entire body positivity is a little bit of BS, because nobody tells you that when you wake up, your feet are going to hurt.
yeah,
Nobody tells you you cannot wear your heels any longer.
yeah,
Nobody tells you that if you carry your laptop on your shoulders, your laptop bag, you're going to come back with a shoulder ache. And I said, that nobody is speaking about in body positivity, that
yeah,
it came to protect us, as being people that were getting attacked. But no one is saying that move to, what your message is, that look at the scale, look at the health, look at your weight, so that you can live longer, so that you can live healthy, so that you can have that fun. So thank you so much for that.
yeah. No problem. That's very true. But body positivity, for somebody to say, you should learn without any of the steps under that, just own it. Love the body that you're in. It's not that simple. So body positivity as just a slogan, I can imagine it can almost be insulting to some people, because it's like you need to learn the steps before you can just become positive. If you're coming from a negative place. So yeah, there's work to be done, definitely, there on the subconscious, and shifting false beliefs that you maybe learned before you were old enough to learn them yourself. And there's all those things and everybody's so different. Everybody has a different history. Everybody has a different ability to see the good and the bad and the indifferent in themselves. So I suppose we have to be open and aware of that. It can't be very singular. It can't be, what I individually think about for myself. Everybody, but the awareness and the mindfulness and these conversations are what brings us very close to getting it right, to kind of breaking it down, being empathetic to each other's journey, and just growing to a certain level of understanding, rather than just thrown out, be positive. You should just look at yourself in a more positive manner. That's too hard.
What are the biggest myths that you think people carry with regards to weight?
There are so many. One is exactly that your weight just does not matter. It doesn't matter at all. There's a few other ones. One would be definitely that weightlifting, which is a huge one, would make women bulky. And I do understand, because that narrative is thrown out a lot now, that, oh, weightlifting doesn't make you bulky. And a lot of the time, from an outsider looking in at the reels and the videos that are all across the place at the moment, the people that are putting them up actually themselves are a little bit bulky as well in some respects. And it does come from a kind of a bodybuilding era that we're in. when they do train to get to stage weight, that weight only really lasts a week. And the rest of the year, they're kind of going around a little bit fluffy. And the problem is they put on a lot of muscle mass to be able to shed it and show it off. But the problem is, as soon as they come off that restrictive diet, they have that extra weight, and then they've the tiniest little layer of, you know, fluff or a little bit of fat, which is a good thing, but it's over that bulk. So it immediately makes them look a little bit chunkier. However, if we're working out in a mindful manner, not going for things like this or competitions, we want to look good every day. The best thing you can do is lift weights. You know, it can stop us from getting osteoporosis and brittle bones at an early age. Or we all have that grandmother or granddad that, you know, fell and straight away broke their hip, or then it was the kind of beginning of the end kind of thing. And all of that comes down to a lack of understanding for nutrition and lifting weights, and how bone density matters, and fad diets actually will pull a little part of the bone density that we have. I mean, an average female would be anywhere between 2.5 to 3.5 kilos of bone density. Like, it's nothing. And to think that 100 or 200 grams can be taken off that by bad diets and lack of exercise, that makes that your mindset shift.
Perspective, yeah.
Yeah, and then following the training, a lot of us think, you know, that watch is everything, the calories and the steps that we did today. And if you do a running workout or a high energy endurance workout, it's going to show your 800, 900 calories on your watch, which gives you that immediate sense of satisfaction. However, if you're doing your weights, it's going to be more like 300, 350, but you've worked just as hard, if not harder. The big difference in both of those types of training is that when you work out, when you have resistance training or under load, your body has an EPOC, or a higher energy or higher oxygen consumption, for up to 72 hours. So that basically means that we have a higher metabolic rate, or our body burns more calories going about daily work for 72 hours. Yeah. So if you do one, let's say 24 hours or 48 hours after the first, you've got that compound overload of extra energy or calories being burned. And that's how we really get to kind of change our bodies, feel strong, have better posture, all of those good things. And mentally, it's good as well. I kind of went off on a tangent on that one. There's so many others. They're
so important because we don't know enough, and that's why we go away from it with that myth saying that I don't want to look bulky, I want to look feminine. But if an hour of weightlifting is going to help you for 48 hours at the least, why not?
Absolutely. And I mean, we all want our curves. We all want to be fit, but I suppose the majority of us also want to look like we do that work, you know. So that's where the weightlifting really does come in. It gives you your curves, your nice sharpened shoulders, you know, and everybody's physique will change in line with their physique. It'll be very hard to go against the grain and spot reduce your body. It's very, very difficult to do, if not impossible. And that's where the self-love comes in a little bit more. Own yourself, like love your curves and accentuate them, you know, the best that they can be. And I think that's when you see people do that and kind of train for that within that way and within that kind of confidence levels, that's a beautiful thing. And that's where we can't really compare ourselves to, you know, our sisters or anybody around us, because we're made differently. And that's what makes everybody so beautiful. The curvy girl likes the girl that's kind of very stick and straight, and the straight girl who's stick thin, all she wants is those curves. It's like curly haired people want straight haired people want curly hair. It's crazy.
Oh, that's so true. And I'm not quite sure whether our male counterparts have that same, you know, issue where they're always looking at someone and saying, I like that. I think that's where, again, culture and upbringing and your subconscious has such a massive effect. When I was reading your story, and I'd love for you to take us through it, what was your, you know, conditioning into sports, into activity that just very beautifully led you into, you know, bringing this to everybody else?
Yeah, oh God, I suppose it was a long road. So within my childhood, sports was just a huge part of my life and my family's life, and it still is across the board with my siblings as well, and my dad. And I suppose it started off with just being very active, swimming, football, a lot of athletics, a lot of sprinting, which I loved. And then it kind of evolved into gyms. I got my father bought myself and my twin sister our first gym membership for Christmas when we were maybe 15. And I remember it was the first one that kind of a big monster one that had opened in the area. I know from then it kind of turned into a thing, you know, the fitness firsts of the world everywhere now. But at the time it was this cool place, and it had, you know, the sauna and the steam room and the coffee shop area. And it was just this massive building with all these shiny machines. And we would go and we would just have no idea what the hell we were doing. And I suppose sports then wasn't class-based in a gym environment at all, I suppose, other than spinning really. And so we would just go and mess around in machines and go to the sauna and have a little swim and just spend the day there. And we absolutely loved it. And from there, my twin sister actually went into sports science, and she actually ended up working very closely alongside that gentleman who owned that gym and many other gyms now. He's a bit of a giant in the business in Ireland, where I'm from. So she went into that, and I really had no desire to. I think I was more so actively into sports myself, rather than wanting it to be a part of my corporate life. And I was very, very aware of that as well. So it wasn't, and I kind of saw at that time the options of what that looked like was very different. To be a PT was not, to be the PT that I had seen within those years was not something I would have strived to have been, and things like that. And then my younger sister then, Sarah, she went and did sports psychology and science and went on to that as well. And Sarah she loved sports, but had played sports, I suppose, to balance out her emotions with herself, you know, to always be at a great, within a look great, have a great physique and all the rest. And so I could see the differences across the board of what people's whys were. And funnily enough, we moved to Australia at quite a young age. Rose stayed within the business. She's a GM of a Paramount Recreational Club over there now. It has a gym and a kind of an event space and everything. And it's very, very artsy and quite cool. And she's loving that. And Sarah came completely out of it in Australia because it was a toxic relationship for her. I think it was the best move she made within her life, to go into more corporate environment, and now is striving in that area. For me, I went straight into corporate, well, music for many years, and then corporate world in Australia for, gosh, I'd say 8 to 10 years before going into fitness. But the way that I went about it, I suppose, is very different to my sisters, in the way that I used to travel back and forth to Thailand, and I trained in Muay Thai very actively for about 12 years. And every time I would go into a camp. And the camp was very old school training. You know, the first time I went, it was the first time that they were even allowing foreign women to be kind of in the ring over there. So it was very new, it was very different, it was very rugged. And I absolutely loved it. To get up in the morning, to have you had to run, and I hated long distance running at the time. I'll never forget it. I only ever liked sprinting. And we had to do a 10K run in the morning before our first 2-hour training session. And then we'd have
Wow, that's a lot.
It was a lot. I mean, I remember jumping over ditches and trying to, because it was a loop that we would do. And I'd be literally trying to half it by walking through the jungle, running away from stray dogs, going through people's houses. Oh, and they would catch me. They would come after me on their little mopeds. And I could keep running if I was walking. But it taught me so much about myself, about my boundaries, about how far you can push your limits when it comes to fitness and things like that. And that kind of went on for many years on the side of my mainstream work in Australia. And then I went into bodybuilding for IFBB, more so from the nutrition side, because I studied nutrition, and I wanted to, I suppose, envelope a transformation so that I could then present that to the masses or the world, to show what I could do with nutrition, or manipulating my calories or my macros. So the best way I thought to do that was to go all in and just compete, which I did. And did all of my training isolated. Actually, a lot of my training would have been between Australia and Thailand. And then all of my nutrition myself at home, kind of even in Thailand, kind of cooking on a small little stove. And then flew back to compete, and learned a lot, learned a lot about mindfulness, because I was exposed to a lot of the girls in that realm that had issues with self-confidence, and this was a tool for them to be in some sort of control over what they ate. And I think it was taking a toxic away and exchanging it for another toxic. So I kind of had an insight into the industry in that respect. So I got the first call out on stage. I went into the pros. I came 5th in Australia, but I gladly walked away. I was kind of like, I ticked that box, and I didn't want to spend hours doing any of the posing training, which I avoided. I can't believe I actually got away with not doing that, which now seems absolutely absurd. But it taught me a lot more to put into my toolbox.
Right? Sometimes you go through that to know that I wanted something like this, but not this really. And then
Exactly.
best.
Yeah, and I was like, I understand this. I get the process. I could take the good things from it, and I can kind of walk away from the bad or the negative side of it, which was great. But during this time, then, I mean, a lot of my life was kind of in Thailand at that point, and a lot of my best friends over the years had grown and built up fantastic businesses and stuff there within the wellness space and detox space and things like that. And then I just stayed there and ended up kind of falling into the fitness industry, and started off as opening and managing a new facility. It was just basically a kind of fitness first, or a fitness facility. But on the side of that, then coaching and being a strength and conditioning coach within the Muay Thai gym that I had trained in for all those years. And then working with a hotelier to set up kind of high level fitness camps. So yeah, so that's how it all started. And I suppose it all started immediately wanting to open up a business and take what I knew from the Thai training and from the excessiveness of that. I learned the hard way is good at times, but it can be detrimental as well to some people. So the reason I went into bodybuilding actually was to counteract a lot of weight that I had lost for a fight that I had over there. And when I came out of the fight, very obviously proud of myself and everything, I went back to Australia, but I felt I almost felt weak because I was almost too slim. And I would call it now like skinny fat, too much endurance, too much overtraining and all the rest. And that can lead to burnout, that can lead to, to stress, anxiety, loss in confidence. And in the funniest ways, people think that the smaller you are, like the higher your confidence. That's not the case. And so that's when I kind of then went in to learn about the strength and the muscle building and stuff.
Not expect this conversation to go into this space, but once again, thank you so much, because you're telling us the other side of the opposite of not taking care, not going into it, and then what happens on the other side, and that's equally not healthy.
Exactly. And some of the girls that I came across and I met within the bodybuilding space, hadn't periods for months on end and things like this. And they were, for me, I was putting on a little bit of weight. So I was actually training less than I would have been used to, which I found a little bit boring. I love the group exercise for the reasons of social life and community and all that. The bodybuilding space takes that away. It's more of a lonely, slow training type. And I could see, some of the girls that were just trying to scale off some of their fat or spot reduce, as we mentioned earlier on, change their genetics, change their shape. And it was toxic. It was, they're on the treadmills for hours on end, eating far less than what they should for months on end, miserable, low self-esteem, for this one day on stage and for one set of photos that they can then share for the year afterwards, because they're too self-conscious to post one in the now, because they're constantly comparing it to that one day that they had on stage. And it's this horrible cycle. Then they're on bulk phase or shredding. And I don't think that, it's always great to strive. It's always great to have a goal. Us in the daily grind, we're in a transformation at the moment, but it has to be led in a positive manner. And it has to be, there's always a scale of what's healthy, and you should never advise anybody to go below that.
That
Yeah.
scale of an emotion that someone can say, if it matches this emotion, it's balanced, and if it's not, it's not
Yes,
that.
exactly right. Yeah. If you're going through your days miserable, what's it for? What's the end goal? Because you're never going to be, as we kind of discussed in the questionnaire, if it's coming from a place of negativity, the goalpost will forever shift. It does anyway across the board within our working life or within sports
Because
and
you
fitness.
evolve, you get somewhere and you're like, hey, what's next? How does
Yeah,
it get better? But if and I know you wrote this, if that one center of emotion or the center of one's value or life is just saying, I want to be a better version, and yet I want to have joy in everything I do. Like,
exactly.
you know,
Yes. And it's that great saying, to stay in your own lane, to just put those blinkers on, that those blinkers that horses wear, don't worry about what the people around you are doing or the person next to you is doing, because that will make you vulnerable. That will make you comparable. And it's in those moments that we're saying, oh, that's better. We're never looking at, what we have that might be above somebody else, which is great. That would have us pretty insufferable. But but if we just stay in our own lane and we do, like, you do you, that type of way. When I see people that live their lives like that, not to entertain anybody else's dilemmas, they are the happiest people you'll ever meet. They are happy out. It's like what's amazing for you mightn't be for the next person, and that's okay. And we always should really remember that. And again, that's across the board. That's across people wanting families in younger life, and some people, not wanting that and kind of publicly saying it in a conversational world. That's something we should avoid. That there are things, again, we can be all better at and mindful of. And that what you want is not what somebody else wants. Don't impose what you want onto somebody else, because that's going to have send negative connotations to that person. Just much like the way that we'd want to be perceived within somebody else's eyes, accepting and, celebrated and all this
and I
stuff.
think it does come down, and why I've loved, reading your answers and this conversation. Very often when someone is representing a point of view or a lifestyle, it's like, it's just this, and that is itself the problem, because
Exactly.
it's of everything. You go and see what's best for you. What is it that you value? What is it that you want to achieve for that year, for that month, and build it up from there. And these are all tools essentially that bring us to that space.
Yeah.
Said that, Trish, please tell everybody, where can they find you? What are the different things that you offer at the daily grind as well as the chalk training?
Okay, so yeah, you'll find me mostly on the chalk training ground on Palm Jumeirah. It's just on the steps to Nikhil Mall. And if I'm not there, I'm usually in our other branch in Business Bay. Our cafe, the Daily Grind, is attached to our gym on Palm Jumeirah. And from there, we've all of your healthy snacks and meals. That does not mean that they're bland. They're absolutely delicious, and we love our food. And we celebrate that a lot. So and we also do meal planning. So at the moment we're in a transformation now with a lovely group. They're in their 4th week, and they're already just, happy and healthy and enjoying the process. So we're myself and my partner are very much invested in the facilities and being there and being operational and being guiding tools to people and just, evoking a sense of well-being within everybody. It doesn't have to be that serious. Fitness does not have to be that serious. What we offer when we're in there is quite serious. Some of the classes are challenging, but there's a space and a place for everybody. We try and have our classes across the board. We have to suit all abilities. We have strength and conditioning. We have HIIT classes, or high intensity interval classes. We have circuit training. We have powerlifting. We have CrossFit. We have endurance training. We have a running club. We even have a bike club that we're starting. I spoke of earlier on that we're a community bike club out to Al Qudra, which is also, it's actually free for anybody to join. So yeah, we're just about making people's lives that little bit better. We also offer light classes for people that are maybe a little bit daunted to jump in. They see our videos and they see a hell of a lot of fit people running around, but I can guarantee you, all of those people, and myself included, we all started somewhere. So we're very much involved in making sure that those new people come, they have the right mindset, they're ready to go, and we'll lead them there, you know, and they'll have a hell of a lot of fun with us while they do so. We've a big patio or terrace outside the front of our facility. It's about 54 meters long, and we're actually in the moment in the process of having all of our outdoor seating put in there. So people take their dogs along, and you know, there's a couple of lovely dog owners in the gym, and that kind of adds to the family environment as well. Some of our clients bring their kids in and kind of leave them with an acai bowl in the Daily Grind Cafe while they go off and do their training. And I think that that's such a cool way to bring
approach. Yeah.
I mean, if I was a child and I was going into a gym and I was watching my mum and dad jump over into a class and throw around barbells, I would think that that was like the best thing I'd ever seen. And how positive is that to kind of evoke?
It's impressionable, because then the child grows up saying, you know what, that's part of my reality.
Yes. And it's not, oh God, I have to go to football training. Oh no, I have to go to the gym. They see the happiness in their parents, and this is them on their day off, you know, on Saturdays, having that 1 hour of, you know, training in the morning with all of their friends and seeing them share those conversations and those laughs with their friends. I think that's so important to see your parents in that light. And it definitely, I hope, will ingrain all of those positive things in the kids. So that's us in a nutshell.
Amazing. I think one of my biggest, not just one, there's so many, but I know exactly, probably when my daughter turns 15, give her a gym membership, because that's the community and that's that fun and that embedding you that, hey, this is so important when you're growing up. So
absolutely,
that's
amazing.
Trish, the podcast is called Say More. What, according to you, should people be saying more about?
I think that we should definitely say more of the positive, whatever that is, whatever you see in front of you. And we feel as much as we see, you know. So when we pass each other by, I was saying, I always do make a conscious effort to do this now. If I like somebody's smile, or I like somebody's outfit, before the thought has a chance to leave my head, you know, I will say it to that person. And it can be a stranger in the mall, be someone you're crossing the road to. But what you have is this beautiful, authentic exchange in its realist light, you know, for you're not looking for anything from that person. But to get a smile or an exchange or a couple of words, I mean, it stays with you as much as it does with them. And it's a really beautiful thing. I do believe that, you know, our thoughts, as much as our words to each other and ourselves, are like a radio transmission. Whatever we do send out into the universe will be signaled back.
The exchange.
Exactly. Yes. So always. As much as we can, if we're just always mindful on that, we can be a little bit better, hopefully, every day.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Trish. I love chatting with you. I am going to see you very soon, because we keep coming there for our full moon meditations, and can't wait to see you. Everybody joining in, if you're in Dubai, go and check it out, the Daily Grind and Chalk training, and then catch up. Hopefully, if you're lucky enough to get to catch up with Trish as well. Until the next time, bring joy up here, and then just bring the things that matter to you, so that you can look at your health not as, oh, I've got to do this because the world said and the magazine said, because it's really good for you. Until the next time, say more and live a big life. Bye for now.
Bye.